We don't stop doing our daily life. That's the whole thing. Years ago, Nina wrote a fabulous book on Abhidhamma in daily life. And that's basically what it is. It's everyday life. You don't have to go anywhere to do it. Understanding can arise anywhere. You don't have to be at a meditation center. You can be anywhere. That you can be sitting in the bathroom or whatever. And that's the way it is. If there are conditions, the understanding will arise wherever it happens. But at least we have the idea that by having these discussions, we learn a lot from the discussions. We at what's called the pariyatti level, okay, just basic intellectual understanding, if you want to call it that. And we learn at the pariyatti level, and the more we learn, the more we even read the Tipitaka or discuss it, think about it, the more there are conditions. And of course, there have to be conditions to do the thinking and the studying as well. I know I'm usually very lazy. I don't want to do anything else except come to the Saturday discussions like this. And each of us is different. Some people can spend hours and hours and hours in my every day, I cannot. I have to take care of my husband and so forth, but that's the way it is. There are conditions for me. I look forward to Saturday. It's like the highlight of my life nowadays with COVID and everything. And even without the COVID.
Kitty, I think you said a minute ago, the more we read and study, the more conditions there are for understanding to arise. But I'm not sure that's actually correct, because
there are, of course, other conditions involved, but that's basic. What other conditions would you say, John? Hello. What other conditions would you add?
Well, the factors that the Buddha mentioned, as we know, are in essence hearing the correct teaching, hearing the Dhamma correctly explained,
sure.
and considering
Absolutely.
what one has heard and been understood. So hearing the Dhamma correctly explained is not something we can do by any kind of effort on our part or activity on our part, for that matter. So it depends on conditions. It depends.
Absolutely. This is what I just said.
Past Dhamma.
Those two things.
Opportunities there are for hearing the Dhamma correctly explained. And the considering is something, again, that happens by conditions, not because it's
absolutely. This is
done.
what I said too. Yeah.
Right.
Same. But John said it much better than I did.
Not at all, Betty.
But Ajahn often says it doesn't matter whether it's kusala or akusala, and that I keep in mind. It doesn't matter. So it's all conditioned and not self. That's the most important thing.
And the reason it doesn't matter Nina, is that the development of the path is about understanding what is appearing now, rather than about having more kusala of any particular kind.
Yeah, quite, yeah.
Understanding and considering will depend on the accumulation and the understanding at this moment, not anyone who can do anything. And when understanding arises, it doesn't mind what is the object, what is to be understood, whether it's kusala, akusala, seeing, hearing, attachment, aversion. They're all conditioned dharmas arising and passing away.
That's very good. It doesn't mind. Understanding doesn't mind. It's very good reminder, yeah.
It just understands what appears, that's all. And this is a way that it leads to the letting go of the clinging to having more kusala or being this or that kind of person, because it just understands what appears and then gone.
I'm beginning to understand this a little, because I used to mind a lot.
I'm so curious.
It's all about the...
Yeah. You want to say something?
Yeah, I'm so curious about the bhikkhus and the bhikkhunis then, because they're so, with all the precepts, they are so trained to do good, and etc. So I'm really would like to hear more about that.
Well, the observance of training rules doesn't necessarily mean the presence of wholesome mental state or understanding, for that
Mhm.
matter.
Mhm.
So it cannot be assumed that because a bhikkhu or bhikkhuni is a person in robes and follows certain training rules, that he or she is developing the path or has any particular level of understanding. We need to consider two things. One is the accumulated tendency to lead a certain lifestyle, like the life of an ascetic, for example. There are people who can lead the life of an ascetic very well, following all sorts of rules and rituals, but not have any understanding of the reality of the present moment.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But
If there is no understanding of the reality, the present reality, no matter it's kusala or akusala, how can there be any knowing of whether it is kusala, like when one would like to or try so hard to have more goodness? If there's no understanding, how can it be known whether that moment of trying or training is kusala or akusala? So without understanding, there cannot be the development of any kind of kusala, because it won't be known what is kusala, what is akusala, will be taken for being kusala, like trying to be good for oneself. It seems virtuous, but what is the chitta? What is the intention at that time? So it has to come back to the understanding from the very beginning.
yeah, I understand that it depends anyway, not of the rope, but about the consciousness and the understanding. But I'm wondering why the Buddha, as far as I know, stimulated all the precepts for the monks, for the bhikkhus and the bhikkhunis.
Sorry, we've just had a frozen screen at this end, so an unstable connection, so I missed all of your comment. It's just come back on again.
Okay, sorry. I understand the difference. I think at least I understand that it's not about the rope, but about the understanding and the mind. I'm wondering what made the Buddha stimulate all the precepts to, for the bhikkhus and the bhikkhunis.
And the Buddha said that the holy life properly lived is very high level of kusala and conducive to the development of understanding. But those words, properly lived, carry a lot of meaning. They mean the person who can lead the holy life naturally without having to force themselves to follow the rules, etc. So they lead the holy life with kusala. Mm-hmm. And of course, they are interested. That goes alongside an interest in understanding the meaning of the teaching, the development of understanding. Earlier, I said we need to consider two things. One is the accumulated tendency to lead the life of an ascetic or the life of a homeless person. And the other is an interest in the Dhamma, that is, having developed understanding in previous lifetimes, so that there is already a basis on which understanding can be further developed. So both those things going together are what happened in the time of the Buddha, when many people who had developed understanding in previous lifetimes by virtue of past karma, were born at the time when the Buddha was in the world, and they were ready for enlightenment on hearing the Buddha's teaching in that lifetime.
But for a lot of bhikkhus, the precepts, I understand that those are really developed, the precepts are going by itself. But for the rest, it is sort of stimulating doing or not doing to give precepts.
How do you mean, Carmen?
You should do this, you shouldn't do that, you should all the precepts, I most of them I read.
Yeah. They are mostly saying that if you do such and such, then it's an offense of a certain kind. And there is some kind of mechanism for expiation of the offense. And the purpose of the rules is to help those who are monks continue to lead the life, bhikkhu or bhikkhuni, continue to lead the homeless life, and to protect the order from internal schism and so forth.
But still it stimulates doing and not doing.
Well, it depends, because they may naturally be able to do or not do according to the rules. Because if you look at the rules about eating, for example, about not slurping one's food and reflecting when eating and not stuffing your mouth full and this sort of thing, they are a manner of behavior that for many people would come naturally. They would already be inclined to that kind of behavior anyway. So it's not stimulating anything, if that's the case, is it?
But I think that those are very good reminders to know the chitta at that moment. What kind of chitta that one is so neglectful by eating in a way which is not very nice. All those rules.
For example, there's a rule about when walking in a village, keeping one's eyes fixed at a plowshare ahead and not looking around side to side at what's going on around you. So for some, it may be a restriction on what they would normally be inclined to do, but for others not. A lot depends on their accumulated tendency.
And perhaps, Carmen, you can look at from this perspective that the first bhikshus were arahats. They didn't need rules. So the rules came in as one by one. There were monks with not so good qualities, and therefore there was someone breaking the precepts, doing something that was akusala, and which affected the rest of the community. And so the rules were brought one by one, from small wrongs to bigger ones. So the small ones it shows that the akusala was not so great, and the bigger one shows that akusala were great. And so as time went by, people with less understanding and more kilesas joined. But in any case, it showed that the people during that time, for them, being reminded about even little akusala was enough for a momentary restraint. And as Nini was saying, it's a reminder about the chitta. So, so for the monks, it was okay because it was a reminder. Whereas as time went by and to now, to this present day, you can see that it's gone in the opposite direction. People not only understand and see the harm of akusala, they want to reinterpret and put their own rules. So we can see that It's a difference in level of panya. So for some people, being a monk is they cannot follow the rules because they don't understand. Some will even misunderstand. So the being a monk is not for everyone. It's actually for someone who has accumulations.
And I think Sukin's point is appropriate, that the rules were made as and when an occasion arose for their making. So it's not as though the Buddha laid out all these rules and said, anyone who wants to become a monk, these are the rules you need to follow. But they were only introduced occasionally when when someone misbehaved or there was seen a need for it.
But do you understand my way of looking, that we say it's not about doing, and I understand try to understand that on my level, and then the Buddha gave for of course not the arahants, they understood by themselves, but the people that join on every level of consciousness, he gave them rules. So it for me it looks like he says, okay, to live a holy life or whatever, you should do this and you shouldn't do that, which is for the not arahant people, it's doing or not doing. He is telling that. Or am I in my own loop of thinking?
Well, the rules are couched in don't do this. It's not like the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not, it's not like that. It's at least for us ordinary people, the 5 precepts are stated in terms of, I undertake the rule of training to refrain from. What's the training? The training is the development of understanding. So that when understanding starts to develop, there's a greater understanding of what exactly is infringing the rules, what is not infringing the rules. Because very often we know the rules in a abstract sort of way, and we know the rules, but we have all kinds of justifications to infringe on them. It doesn't matter this, doesn't matter that, da da da. Okay, but so with the growth of understanding, there's a clear understanding of what is gusala, what is akusala, why is it bad to murder, why is it bad to take alcohol or drugs or whatever, and so forth. And even for the 227 rules of the monks, it's the same thing. It requires a development of understanding, again, because of conditions, as John. I
think many of the rules were necessary in order to maintain the integrity of the Sangha, of the order.
Of course,
for example, rules against consorting with members of the opposite sex and so forth.
Yes.
Obviously, if that...
But then, John, the point I'm making is that with all the rules, it takes a development of understanding in order to follow them properly.
Yeah, what Betty is saying, for example, the 5 precepts come in. Some people hear about the precept to refrain from lying. It will be difficult, and then if they're attached to wanting to be a good person, then they will want not to lie just for the sake of self. Whereas another person just sees the danger, the harm of lying, and without the idea of doing, there'll be a moment of restraint.
Carmen, can I say something? Can I ask, is your point about the Vinaya and the monks related to meditation centers and their many rules and techniques and so on? Like, they're sort of, in a way, they tend to be apparently copying a monk's life. You live a much more simplified life than normal life, and you're wondering if it's okay for the monks to follow this very specific set of rules, why it's not, we seem to say it's not so good to go to these meditation centers for these 10-day retreats following their rules and so on, which in a way are an imitation of the monk's life. Is that related to what you're talking?
Yeah, I like your way of explaining it, but it is related, but I related it in a different way because of the doing part. That you should or should not do anything. And and that in another way, the Buddha is giving rules, which is doing and not doing. That was the relation I made in my mind, at least.
Okay.
The Buddha is not saying that if you do these rules, if you
You will
follow
become.
these rules, then you'll
No.
be developing understanding. And
Naturally.
that they are something that is quite separate from, in that respect, from his teaching about what is the path of development.
Because I stayed for a long time in the temple, I always wondered, I didn't understand, didn't make sense for me to be do, because for me it is different than to, I don't know, to feel like, for me, yeah, I cannot explain. But it's in a way, sometimes it feels opposite, for me to have those rules and like this. That's why I better not to talk here.
No, I think I'm guessing what you're saying, Carmen, I'm guessing what you're saying is that as a lot of people who have not heard the Dhamma or who have not had enough understanding, people think rules are kind of forced, and so it goes against the natural tendency. It seems like unnatural. Whereas I think for people who understand the Dhamma, and for example, Nina, I think, was pointing out that hearing the Vinaya, even us as lay people, when we hear the Vinaya, the different rules, it can be a reminder to us about the Chitta, about the quality of the Chitta. So it's not necessary either you do it as a rule and like feel forced, or you don't do it. It's about whether you do it or not do it versus understand, and then it's good for you. I mean, if there's, and that's why for the monk, following the rules with understanding, it supports the development of understanding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think, Carmen, maybe what you're saying is that when you go to, say, a meditation retreat and follow the rules, you feel a better person for it. Is that part of what you're saying? And you feel it's a good condition for developing understanding or having a better understanding of oneself.
Can you say that again?
I think many people have the experience that when they go to a retreat, whether it's a Buddhist one or a non-Buddhist one, and Nina may be able to confirm this, and they are following certain rules and leading a certain lifestyle that is not their normal one, they feel a better person for it. So they feel there's more wholesomeness in that, for that period. And with wholesomeness, perhaps a bit better understanding. They feel they understand themselves better at the end of the week or 10 days or whatever it is. And I think that's a common experience. But the question is this the development of the path about which the Buddha spoke?
Yeah, that's what I'm contemplating last time about after all the comments I got on DSG. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, your sound is out. I don't hear you.
Whatever we read or hear, no matter it's the Buddha's teachings or in the newspaper or on the COVID rules, or whatever arises, is anatta. There is no one there, no one who can do anything. So we can read what seemed like a set of rules, and it seems that it's saying that you should do this, you should do that. But there has to be the understanding and confidence that in truth at this moment, there are just moments of seeing, moments of hearing, moments of thinking. Each one is conditioned. Kusala is conditioned. Akusala is conditioned. When we remind a child, don't put your finger near the fire, it can be said as a reminder, but it depends on the understanding, whether it's understood that in truth, there isn't anyone and there isn't any finger and there isn't any fire. There are just different dharmas arising and falling away. So the conventional language is used, but with more and more understanding that in truth, there are just dharmas which are not self. So no one ever does anything. No one ever follows a rule. But the Buddha pointed out what is kusala, what is akusala, what is suitable for the monk's life, what is suitable for our life. When we eat poorly, as Jonathan mentioned, it's inconsiderate to those around. It doesn't lead to harmony. If we tell lies, it causes a lot of disturbance to others and to our own cheaters, and it brings bad results. So the Buddha is just pointing out the nature of different kinds of akusala and the harm of accumulating more and more akusala. So what sounds like a rule that a self follows is actually a description of different kinds of akusala to be avoided through the development of understanding of the truth of life at this moment. So that's why it has to come back to understanding whenever we read about the rules or any other aspect of the teachings. It has to be with the understanding of dhammas, of chittas, cetasikas, and rupas arising and falling away. Like here in Sydney, we're in lockdown, like in many places. So there's so many rules at the moment to follow, wearing a mask and doing this and not meeting anyone and not having anyone. But this can all be understood as different dhammas. We think we live in a situation of people and places and rules, but in truth, there are just different realities arising and falling away, no matter what's heard, no matter what's read. So it comes back to the understanding and confidence in the truth at this moment.
Probably
and
have
also,
I probably have to rethink and digest on it. But at the moment, I'm a bit stuck at the point that it is all about understanding. So those who understand do not need the rules because they do it by themselves, because they understand why. Yeah? So still,
well,
yeah, and those.
did the Buddha always advise, or did he ever advise people they should become a monk or a nun if they wished to develop understanding?
I don't know that. I don't know if he ever did that.
I don't think he did. I think often people who listened to the teaching decided to take ordination, to leave the household life and take the homeless life. But that was not because it was suggested that they should. And many people who were lay people became enlightened in the time of the Buddha without following rules of any kind other than the normal conventional rules. So,
And even if some understanding has been developed, it's not enough. So reminders are necessary. Guidelines have to be followed. The harmony of the order has to be considered, no matter one's a lay person or a monk. Like we can follow as many rules as we're able to follow easily in daily life through more understanding.
while Carmen digests all that, I would just like
Thank
to say, Mark, nice to see you here after communicating with you on the list for quite a long time. So welcome.
And Ajahn, are you here now?
Yes, สวัสดีค่ะ
Sawadee-ka, Ajahn.
Sawasdee ka, Ajahn.
I'm sure you heard some of the discussion. I don't know if you would like to add any further comments, Ajahn.
I think that most people just want to understand something, but not what is there now. See, they go across to the story about Sila and so on, but who's the Buddha and what did he teach about? What is the truth of his words? See, if we don't consider carefully, we just take the word and think that he taught us to do this and that, to behave in such a way, but actually to understand the truth, the absolute truth, that no one can understand it by oneself because one hasn't developed enough conditions to become enlightened as him. That's why understanding that Who's the Buddha, the enlightened one? What is it? To understand the truth, the absolute truth of what is there, and taught the other to develop understanding, to experience the same reality as it is, as no one and nothing. And to, while listening to his word, what about consider carefully whether it's true or not? What is the best thing in life, the most worthy moment in life, the moment of understanding what is there, because it is there, and there is no understanding of it, and it's gone with no understanding from moment to moment. And what about the words which can be thought about carefully, wisely, to understand whether it's true or not about what is there now, to understand it, because next moment hasn't arisen yet, and the past one is completely gone. So the only way to understand the truth of life from moment to moment is the moment of what is there now, and what did Buddha say about it, whether it's true or not. And this is the beginning to understand what's the most precious moment in life, to live with attachment and enjoy oneself, and then thinking that we own so many things, but actually not even one at all. Even what we take from my body, my seeing, my thinking, or my understanding. Just consider whether it's true or not, and then should it be known. Otherwise, it cannot be known, no matter in this life or next and next life, on and on. Still the same, not understanding what is there now. Just take it and then die. No more. No story about past life, even just a moment ago. No understanding. So the most precious thing in life, the best, is understanding the truth, because it's there. So it can be object of understanding, the truth of it. To those who are interested in understanding the truth of what is there from moment to moment in life, they would listen to the truth and consider whether it's true or not. And who am I? Or no me, no I at all. If not, what is it? If there is no understanding of the truth, it has to be I or something as usual, the whole life. So it depends on the one who listens to the words, any word, whether that's true or not. Is it worthwhile to consider, to understand it, or just take it for granted? It doesn't matter at all. What is it? Just live, that's all. So the one who understands that life is so short, we don't know how long will it be. Maybe 5 minutes ahead, or just more or less than that. But what about the understanding of what conditioned birth and why it has to end up by conditions? No selection. Nothing can tell beforehand at all. And this is the truth of what is there now. It's not there anymore. See? Is it true? Because it seems what it's there is exactly the same. No change at all. Because not understanding the absolute truth that Buddha, the enlightened one, has enlightened the truth and taught about the absolute truth of that which is there now, that it's not there forever, it doesn't last at all, and how short it is, because moment of seeing is not moment of hearing. See, each word can condition more understanding of the truth of what is there as it is. Is it just the worthy moment in life, so very valuable, most precious thing, most precious moment to understand the truth, rather than be blind, not understanding anything at all. Even it's there now, appearing. Even what you said just about the Sila, what is it? We just talk about that which we don't know its reality yet. The reality which cannot experience, like the tree, the stone, the window, and hardness and softness. Does it have Sila? So what is Sila? What is meant by Sila? What about dog and cat? Does it have Sila as well? Or no Sila at all? We cannot find the answer by oneself because we haven't enlightened the truth as Buddha. But from hearing what he said, is it true or not? What is Sila? To understand what we talk each day better and better than just know understanding, just follow the word from birth up to now. What it said is said, but what about it understanding? For example, Sila, what is it? If we don't talk about how many rules, just what is it in the very beginning? What is Sila? It's there now. If we don't know the nature of Sila, we just talk about that. We don't know. Just talk a lot about it, but not understanding it as what is really it, that we call Sila. And there are many, many degrees of each moment. Sila is the behavior of the reality which experiences an object. So, what is it? The moment of experiencing that which is seen is a Sila or is not Sila. So, Sila is not just what we take for only an angle of it, some part of it, but to understand it better and more, that what it's meant by it cannot be changed at all, because it is the behavior of the reality which arises and falls away by condition, non-stop, from moment to moment, succeedingly, so very rapidly. That's why they are not just kusala sila. There must be akusala sila and apiyakata sila to understand the truth better and better, clearer and clearer, that what is it? No one there at all, only different conditioned realities from moment to moment, unexpectedly. We use the word like we know, unexpectedly, but it's there for everything, every moment, even Nibbana. See, what is there must be unexpectedly, because who knows when it hasn't arisen yet. But when it's there, is there any understanding of that which is there enough to talk about it in different manners, different aspects, by way of sila, samadhi, and the development of understanding? See, so many words should be searched very carefully in order to understand the truth of it, little by little. That's one word like sila. Adhisila, what about that? Or when it's the path, what are that moment which is taken for sila of the path, the Eightfold Path? So I think that if we talk about just one word to understand it thoroughly, it can lead to more and more understanding of the truth, that actually what is now appearing is so very short, and no one can imagine how short it is. Because even right now, it seems that there is seeing and hearing together. Seeing is still there while there's hearing, but the truth is not like that at all. So the absolute truth is different from what we take in life as people and things and behavior and so on. And by this way, there can be more understanding of the virtues of the enlightenment. That is there now, can be directly experienced, but not with ignorance or wanting or wishing, trying to experience it, only by conditions, because it's not there anymore from moment to moment. So each word should be understood clearer as it is. Otherwise, we just talk from our own thought or the other's thought and try to find out what is it. But what about the words of the Buddha? Word by word, one by one, about Sila or about Samadhi or about Panya or about whatever is there as it is. What are there gone without understanding? How many realities are there? Unknown. But there can be understanding little by little of that which is now appearing. Even it's gone. The other one succeeds instantly, but the nimitta, the symbol, the sign of the characteristic is there as just a reality, but not a single one or a single unit, because it's so very rapidly arising and falling away instantly. Is this not true or it's true? To be truthful to the truth from the very beginning. Otherwise, it's one's own idea all the time about this and that, which is heard. But what about just one reality at a time? Or just one word at a time? And I think that there can be more understanding if we just talk about just one word or one reality, to understand it better and better, clearer and clearer as it is.
For example, Carmen, when we talk about Sila, we're used to thinking about following 5 Sila or 8 Sila or so many precepts. But for example, when abstaining from slurping the food, but out of attachment, can that be Kusala Sila? Or when abstaining from telling a lie, but because we're afraid of getting caught out, so out of fear, we don't tell the lie. We think the teacher or someone may be cross. Can that be Kusala Sila? So what we learn is that Kusala Sila doesn't depend on the situation, but on the citta at this very moment. So the citta now, sometimes Kusala, sometimes Akusala. So no matter what the circumstances, when it's Akusala citta, it cannot be the Kusala Sila. So the Sila changes from moment to moment. So it's not a matter of, oh, today I kept 5 wholesome Sila all day because I didn't kill and I didn't lie. What about even now, the many moments of bewilderment or attachment or confusion? Is it Kusala or Akusala Sila at those moments? And what about when one's not following any of those precepts, but one's helping someone out with kindness or the moments of understanding? It's Kusala Sila. So whatever we read about is about the nature of citta, the behavior of citta and cetasikas from moment to moment. So there's Kusala and Akusala Sila all day, but without any understanding, how can it be known? It's impossible. And without any understanding, there's always the idea of I that is doing or following Sila. So it's very deep, as we hear every time. The teachings are so deep and so subtle, and they come back to this moment, the understanding, the truth at this moment. So right now, Kusala Sila or Akusala Sila? Without understanding, impossible to know, because even now, moments of attachment, moments of boredom, moments of irritation, Akusala Sila, even during a Dhamma discussion. And it's the same if one's at the temple and one's reciting about following the precepts. What about the moments of attachment or the moments of just repetition with ignorance? Akusala sila, even at those moments. So one chitta at a time. Does some of this make sense?
Yes, of course it makes sense. Yes. Yeah, it makes sense. And of course, I have to digest. Yeah, that's the way I do it.
So that's why, as Jan said, even one word
Yeah.
like sila or one word like precept has to be considered very carefully, because like you, we all come with our own ideas and what we've heard from different places or what we've read about. So it just takes a lot of considering. And I appreciate that you just like to listen and consider carefully what's said. So
I appreciate
and that you come
it.
each time.
I'm really grateful. Thank you. Thank you, Ajahn, as well.
Does a dog have Sila?
I cannot say.
Yes, Ajahn, if there is chitta,
Because
there must be.
there's no you. They are Chitta and Chitasikas. Kusala or Akusala. See, this is the understanding of what is meant by Sila. It has to be that which can experience, and the way it experience have different manners. Sometimes it is Akusala, and sometimes it is Akusala. That's all. No one there. Just to learn to understand the absolute truth that what is there is only for very, very short moment and then gone, never to arise again. And all depends on conditions to be what and what, kusala or akusala. For a fish, does it have sila? We think about the shape of fish, the shape and form of dog, but we are talking about different levels, different characteristics of chitta, that which can experience an object, and the cetasika, the mental factors arising together to condition different jittas, sometimes kusala and sometimes akusala. Otherwise, how come to be sila if there is no chitta and cetasika?
Ajahn, when you were referring to Abhyakata Sila, you were not including the sense door chittas, right?
As moment when it is pawanka, it does not experience the object through the six doorways of all. So the object does not appear. So how can the chitta become sila, kusala, or akusala at moment of experience is that? That's why we have many, many words for different chittas and cetasikas to understand the truth that is by condition at different moment. So when it behaves, it's the manner of javana, the moment of not just seeing or hearing, but the moment after that, which like or dislike, try to do this, right or wrong, by conditions, until it is apayagata sila. It cannot be kusala sila or akusala sila because it cannot be the cause to condition any round, any result after it has gone. Like the arahata, see, they do not have kusala chitta, so no akusala sila. They do not have kusala chitta, that's why they do not have kusala sila. What the manners of chitta is in a day is only apayagata sila. So we understand now what's meant by sila. Can the lay people observe more than 5 or 8 or 10 Sila? Or is it just for monks?
It can be for anyone who has the accumulations and conditions.
Mhm. No need to count. Whatever is wholesome, it should be moment of developing wholesome chittas. And I'm sure as one reads the Vinaya of monk, at that moment there can be condition for the one who is not monk to follow the rule, the behavior at such and such situation. Very, very proper. Even while eating, see, we can follow the rule for months. Anyone can do. When there is the understanding of moment of kusala and akusala. That's why even lay people can read about Sila, the monk Sila, and they can follow more than just 5, 8, 10. So it's all about the citta and cittasika, not just for what we say monk or lay people. So we understand.
Ajahn, can I ask you a question about Sila in the Eightfold Path? You just mentioned about the Sila in the Eightfold Path. I was thinking about the threefold division of Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. But so I was thinking that maybe different cetasikas, different factors can be classified as Sila or Samadhi or Chitta or Panya. Is that is that Sila in the Eightfold Path, the three Chittasika which are the abstaining from the Virati Chittasikas, the Sila in the Eightfold Path?
When we use the word Sila, we mean the citta and cittasika, which are accompanied by wholesome cetasikas. So we call it kusala sila, the manners of kusala citta and cetasika. So no matter it is by way of dana, it is kusala sila, by way of samadhi, prapuan, samatha, that is also kusala sila, right? And even moment of developing understanding, it is wholesome sila. When we talk about by way of sila, by way of the three silas, kusala includes all kinds of kusalas level of wholesomeness, no matter dana, sila, or samatha or bhavana. And when we talk about the unwholesome sila, no matter what degree, and for apayagata, just for arahata, because it does not condition any result after it has eradicated all akusala. Even anusya cannot be arisen again. So the question is about, there are many levels of kusala sila. When we talk about adi sila or sila at level of developing the path leading to the enlightened truth. We can talk about akusala sila because akusala is only akusala sila at moment when it's there. But for kusala, many different manners, many degrees. For the dana moment, it is kusala sila, but it's not adisila because no panya to make to condition it to be better than just ordinary sila. To understand, to develop the understanding of what is there now with right understanding at the degree of patipati, not just pariyati. Because we are learning about atisila, just about what is it and understand it intellectually. But what is it at moment when it's there? The sila, which is usually not accompanied by panya, can be just only ordinary kusala sila, no matter dana or sila, or now we are hearing the truth, considering, developing it. But at moment of directly understand what is there as usual, which hasn't accompanied by panya before, but it's a moment of understanding enough to understand it directly of just a reality. And that moment is different from other moment of sila, so it is adisila, develop on and on and on. So we can understand that when it is adisila, it has to be accompanied by panya and it has to be direct understanding of that which is now appearing. As no condition for panya to understand it, it cannot be adisila.
So, Achan, whenever there's direct understanding, it is adisila.
Certainly, because it's different from moment of not directly understanding what is there. Just learn about it. But what the actual understanding, the characteristic, the truth of that, which cannot be taken for anything as usual. Usually, there is the idea of what is there, flower, shoe, or whatever it is. But at moment when there's no shoes, no flowers, only hardness, and it is directly object of understanding with direct awareness, by conditions unexpectedly, the anatta of everything begins to show up little by little, little by little. Even it's there now. We can say, by conditions, it's there already, but not directly understand anyone at all. So it's just the word thinking about whatever are there, but it's not thinking. It's a moment of directly understanding because direct awareness is there. And nothing can condition direct awareness, only panya, which is enough to understand that object when direct awareness is there. Otherwise, what's the use? Just use the word direct awareness. But because of it is the understanding of the characteristic as it is, as not anything anymore, from moment to moment, until panya with direct awareness is familiar to any characteristic of any reality right now in a day by conditions unexpectedly. There must be unexpected when there is panya. Another level of sila, see, adi sila.
And it is also Adi Chitta
Sila.
and Adi Panya as well.
Yes, the same. It has to be accompanied by panya, which begins to understand the truth, the characteristic of that which cannot be taken for anything at all. Only a reality at a time. Even right now, see, only a reality at a time, But the rapidity of the succession of the arising and falling away hinder the truth with ignorance and attachment to the next one all the time. No minding, no awareness of that which is there and gone. As it's not more, there's no more of that, never to return. But that can be directly experienced from understanding just one characteristic by conditions to understand what is there unexpectedly, hardness or sound or hearing or seeing or like, dislike, by condition of feeling, see? Anything now which doesn't show up. But when time comes, who can direct the awareness to be aware of such and such? Impossible. But the way it arises and experience and be aware by condition itself, condition the understanding of no one and no thing at all. So one is not familiar with the truth of the characteristic as no self, but one is familiar to take it for something as thing or I all the time. That's why we talk about the anusaya, the asava, and the upadana of what is there in life. Just for the sake of understanding, which is not me or anyone. It's their condition by hearing, considering wisely, and beginning to understand the truth, little by little, until there can be direct awareness of a reality with understanding, beginning to develop of the truth as it's just a reality, just a characteristic, which is different from one to one, moment to moment. And before it can let go the idea of self, it takes quite a long time, stage by stage, to be confident of the truth, Satya Parami, Virya Parami, Adhidana Parami, Nekama Parami, all must be so true, truthful to the truth. Otherwise, there's no way to understand what is there as it is, because it is not there long enough in truth. But in a day, everything just stay there. So understanding how far from ignorance to understanding at that level, which can directly experience the truth, clearer and clearer, stage by stage, not different from what is heard right now about it.
And also, this is the only way for Sila, for the behavior of Chitta and of Chitta to have less ignorance and to behave to not to behave in a kusala with a kusala behavior, like really. Otherwise, it's impossible really to just wanting to trying to have a good behavior without understanding what actually behavior is and what and with ignorance and with ignorance and attachment, it's impossible for the behavior to even to improve even a little bit, I think.
That's why I study carefully to understand that that's very subtle of any reality which is there as already common in a day, that the truth is that it's not just like it seems or appears. It's gone each moment, succeeded by the next one instantly. An attachment is there from one to one, covers up the truth. So have the Satya Parami to be truthful to the truth, that what is truth. As it is so true, there can be the moment of directly experience it, never change from what we heard. This morning we talk about asava. See, it seems like everyone understands what asava is, how many asavas are there. But what about this moment? Otherwise, we might think the Buddha just talk about it that cannot be known. But actually, each word of him pointed to what is there now, to understand it as it is. No matter kusala sila, akusala sila, apayakata sila, or ati sila, is it different at moment of just abstaining from doing anything wrong, but without understanding, and abstain from doing wrong with understanding? See, even that is different. And they are all there in daily life, everyday life.
Ajahn,
Yes, please.
may I ask a question?
Please.
It's exactly what you said about what you said in the last two sentences. I have a very practical question. That blind woman was asking me this morning that what to do with her dog. Her help dog has been 14 years with her, is dying, and she does not want to kill. She wants to keep the precept not to kill, but the situation becomes so difficult.
Can the dog die before she kills?
She is hoping that the dog will die before she kills.
But you see that we are talking about the truth. Can the dog die before she kill it? Is it possible? No need to kill. And what about if she tries to kill, but the dog does not die? All depends on conditions. The most important thing is not the dog or the way to treat it, but what about citta that we take for I at that very moment, whether it's wholesome or unwholesome? And is it useful, beneficial to have unwholesome moment, like feeling sad or something like that, or try to do the thing which is not useful at all? Because even she can kill the dog and the dog die, but what is the next birth of that dog? In hell or somewhere we don't know.
No, not is it about the dog or is it about her? She is
That,
killing.
thinking about the dog, but what about thinking about what one take for I at that very moment? Can you help the dog, or can you help that you take for oneself with right understanding that when it is akusala, it doesn't bring any use at all. No use to have akusala.
And that is the reality of what is happening in her. That is the reality.
Yeah,
Because you started this morning with saying it is about the behavior of the reality. The behavior of reality.
It's the way reality conditioned to arise on and on and on. But we try to find out the word. But the best thing is to understand the truth of it. That when it is no self, no one can do anything, because actually what is there is not one or I or anything at all. It's only different conditions. Even what we take for dog, what is there? See? We think about its feeling. That is your own thought, your own idea. But it's not what dog is thinking about before it died. See, who knows? So all depends on each individual's accumulation. As much as you can do, the best thing is when citta is wholesome. It can be moment of kusala towards the other too, helping the other in the right way, not in the wrong way. As much as you can do is try to help it not to have pain, very painful, or torture, or whatever is there. As much that we can do. But what about the dog's citta? We cannot know at all. All depends on conditions. Even it seems so peaceful, but citta can be a kusala before death, which can condition birth in hell and so on. Or it can be wholesome moment, conditioned birth in heaven, who knows, by conditions. But the best thing is that actually there's no dog, there's no one, there's no you, but there are different realities by condition. So taking it for I or dog is right or wrong. The truth can be directly experienced when Panya develops to understand what is wholesome and what is unwholesome, to have such painful feeling, sadness, and so on, and just help without such a kusala moment, what is better. So Panya leads to all wholesome manners and we can say wholesome result or good result.
But I always thought that killing was unwholesome.
Unwholesome, right?
Unwholesome, yeah. But I think with this definition that you have, that it is the behavior of the reality, if her reality is really compassion, and then she can kill, and then it becomes wholesome.
Who can condition anything to be such and such a way one like? Even we tried so much in every way to help the other, but it depends on the other's condition, Dhamma. What is there? And accumulation, whether it is kusala or akusala. The best thing, no matter when it's so painful, is kusala citta, not having akusala citta. If that possible, it's better than just having pleasant feeling, very pleasant body feeling, but with akusala. So comparing the dog or whatever or whoever is going to die, who knows what citta is there? But what about one's own, what we take for oneself at that moment?
Yeah.
It is wholesome or unwholesome. No one can make it at all, even the other or you oneself, by conditions only. That's why Panya can lead to more wholesomeness in any situation when it's there. It can understand the reality as it is as a self. We don't know when will it be that level of understanding, but from accumulation, on and on and on, little by little, unexpected moment is there. This is the only way to lessen or to eliminate desire or attachment or clinging to what would you like to have. It happened. So no one can do anything, but one can do the best by condition with wholesomeness.
Yeah.
You can touch it with kindness, say something that comfort it to have less and less akusala, but we cannot know what is there. But we try our best to help the others with kusala moment.
But a kusala moment is not a moment of killing, I think.
No, not at all, not at all.
Not at all. And it is so
Would you
common.
like to be
It
killed?
is so common.
See, would you like to be killed?
No, I don't think so.
It's the same as the one that someone is trying to kill. No one likes to be killed at all. The best thing is to understand the absolute truth. There is no self, no one, and no thing at all. Only different conditioned realities. So very, very subtle, conditioned to arise and fall away instantly. Without panya, who knows? But when there is the words of truth, little by little, and there can be the understanding of the word and the truth of it, little by little, there can be moment of kusla to understand what is there is conditioned. One can do, can help as much as one can with awesome moment, not with akusla.
So it means that really be there and having the patience to sit with the dog till it will die.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, when that's
Keep this going on.
exactly moment, never. See, who knows the chitana which arises and falls away. So the moment of death is exactly the same, just now, arising and falling away, depending on whether it is the last moment of this life or not yet, depending on karma, which condition it to be, this personality or identity or no more.
But I thought that the dog, it would not be important for the, yeah, I don't know. I don't like to be killed, but if I be killed, I will not feel and have very much pain, I think of it. I don't know. I thought
Yeah,
the dog would
because
not
that
have much
hasn't come
pain.
yet.
Yeah. But that when she is doing it, that is, and it's her own fear also. But then, yeah, then it is like she is also concerned about her own karma and not helping the dog with but that is strange. She doesn't like to do it, but she has the idea that it needs to be done when the dog becomes too bad, too with everything, that he is in his own, that he cannot walk anymore, next more anymore.
But she cannot think for the dog. The dog
Yeah.
has to think by its conditions.
Yeah.
It might be Bhavanka, who knows? The outer appearance is just like very, very torture, unpleasant. But
Yeah.
that moment can be Bhavanka, no experience of the object. But before death, there must be a moment of kusala and akusala. Only one karma will condition the next birth after death instantly. Just two moments, so very close. One is death and the other is birth. Forget about this life, being a dog or whatever. And it can happen anytime.
Yeah.
And the idea of just want to help it by killing, it's not Dhamma of the dog, because it's your own thinking, your own karma. But what the moment of death will come is from the dog's accumulation. One karma can condition that to be next birth after death.
And also, Jyotika, the idea of killing as being something that has to be done and is the only option is just a way of thinking of the individual. If the person has never considered the possibility of that situation arising, then they may not be prepared to consider the situation in terms of what actually is necessary and what is not necessary. So they just have the idea, as you said, that it needs to be done.
Yeah,
But
because
really, it's just a way of thinking.
it's just a way of thinking about everything around. It's just so common. You get you do the telephone call and the veterinarian is there. So
But there's always other. There's always other options,
yeah,
because we can have the dog taken away, for example, and cared for elsewhere.
but it's a very different thinking in Dhamma. There's the different thinking, and she is in Dhamma.
I think it's a question of what the way one is used to thinking. That's what it comes down to. It's not so much Dhamma thinking versus conventional thinking. It's just a question of, because in other societies, they would think differently about the same situation, not because they are Buddhist or anything, but just because that's the way people think in that particular society.
Really?
Yes. So I could say particularly, in some countries, as you know, there is a very strong movement towards euthanasia. And that's just the way that people in that particular society choose to, or get accustomed to thinking. In other places, they resist that way of thinking.
I know.
Yeah. So it's the way one is used to thinking only. But coming to study the Dhamma, we understand that thinking is conditioned, and it's conditioned by one's accumulated tendencies, and also conditioned by the way other people around one thinks. And coming to see it that way can be a condition for not necessarily just following the way other people around us are thinking. But it's difficult, as I said, if one has never considered this before and suddenly there's a situation facing one. Okay, one's house is infested with termites, or I don't know, the dog has got fleas and whatever, or in this case, the dog is at a stage where it's obviously approaching the end of its life. And there's not been no other way of considering the situation. So that's the difficulty.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajahn.
Please excuse me. It is difficult to watch a being suffer.
When you say it's difficult, I think you mean it's a condition for dosa on our part.
Well, the discussion brought to mind about a friend that I was visiting in the hospital who had an aneurysm. And a person wrong thinking might say, well, this person has no quality of life and they're suffering. And ignorance might condition the thought that euthanasia is an option. But then there is also the situation where a person will stipulate that should a certain critical stage be reached, that they opt out for euthanasia, but it's all unwholesome.
Yeah. Hello, Achan.
Yes.
I have a question referring your talk on the radio of station of the Prince of Songkla University, this Buddhism and the fear of COVID-19. Oti had it translated into English, and there is a sentence to say, the Buddha has shown us the real causes, both near and far, for the rising of phenomena. Now my question, what does near and far means? And near to what and far from what?
Can we say near to this moment and far from this moment?
Yes.
So the cause can be recent or long ago, just like the cause for rebirth can be recent karma performed recently or karma performed a long, long time ago.
Or can we say that it can be known and the other is rather quite not near to know? For example, one moment of citta, there are many cetasikas arising, but what about phassa and feeling? See? What is the object is experienced by citta with phassa and feeling. But when we talk about feeling, we talk about the near cause is phassa, because it depends on the object, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. That is near cause for the feeling. But the other cetasika, which arises together, are there as conditions too. But what is near to understand? Like the near cause for compassion, wholesome, see, the unpleasant feeling is there. So there is, it can condition compassion. But when it's through compassion, one has to understand the close or the near enemy of compassion. That is the unpleasant feeling is there. So at moment of just being wholesome to be compassion, there must not be unpleasant feeling. Experiencing trouble and unpleasant situation, see? So it's just what can be known and what is far to be known. Depends on what we're talking about, on what point. But the most important thing is that we just talk about many, many things, but what about the main difference between that which experiences and that which cannot experience? Can it be known clearer, closer, right now, at moment of seeing, hearing, and thinking? So what is the innermost or the inner? That it does not come out to be known or show up to be known. just to develop the understanding of the truth of no one and no thing at all, only just conditioned reality, so very subtle, arising and falling away, all known before it can be known. So many of them has arisen and fallen away instantly all the time, even right now. That's why only right understanding can begin to understand the difference little by little until only one can show up as it is, as the object of right understanding and direct awareness. For example, at the moment we are talking about the killing and the dog, what are they? See, unknown, only thinking about the story. Everything just arises and falls away with ignorance and attachment. They are all there, but they are not easy to be understood at all without more considering about each word, just one word at a time.
Truth, Jyotika, it's like we were discussing before about Sila, one cheetah at a time. So in the case of your friend and her dog, moments of kindness, moments of generosity, moments of attachment, moments of dosa with unpleasant feeling, and of course, moments of intending to kill. Of course, it's akusala. So different cheetahs at different moments, but each one is conditioned, and this is life day after day, different moments, different ways of thinking. Kusala sila, akusala sila. Someone gave the example before of taking the dog with fleas to the vet, and the vet giving some medicine to get rid of the fleas. But what was the person's intention? Is it to just be kind and care for the dog, or is their intention to kill? So only the understanding can know at the moment. And even for the vet, was his intention to kill or to care for the dog? So different cheetahs at different moments. Without any panya, no one can know. And without any panya, it's all taken for my good and bad deeds and my big dilemma and trauma and so on. But actually, just different moments of thinking, kusala and akusala, no matter we have a dog or don't have a dog, no matter in this situation or that situation, no matter at the temple or at home.
But if there is really good thinking about the dog, to what is the best for the dog, but then there is this thing what is wrong when you think that is the best thing to kill.
So different moments of kindness, and like even for a human who is about to die, we think that this is the best thing, but actually we have no way of knowing, because each moment for the person or the dog depends on different conditions. Who knows whether it will be kusala or akusala cheetahs at the end of life, or who knows what the next life will be. So that's why one just does one's best at the time. But actually, there's no knowing. But certainly when it's the idea that killing is the best, then it's not understanding anything about dhammas at those moments.
And then it is not that because you think it is the best that it is wholesome.
But even at this moment, who knows what is wholesome? Like when one takes one's child out for a nice meal, you think it's doing the best, but who can say at that moment whether it's wholesome or unwholesome? So each cheetah is conditioned. moments of kindness and true caring for the dog are wholesome, but moments of aversion or moments of thinking about killing are unwholesome. That's all.
That's the standard. That's really clear. That is always unwholesome. When you think of killing.
When you think of harming the other, because killing is taking away life. So that when there's thinking of killing or harming, it's akusala, and when it conditions some action, then it's even more harmful.
Akusala Sila.
Yes, and wrongness starts with wrong view. It is wrong view to think that administering euthanasia to this person who is suffering a great deal after this aneurysm is a compassionate thing to do. Wrongness starts with wrong view.
I have another question, Ajahn. Some time ago, you explained that there is a difference between seeing and I see. And we can repeat the words that I see is taking things for self, but it takes really panya to understand this, develop panya. So maybe it helps if you would explain a little more about seeing and I see, because I see, well, we have learned this is taking things for self, but it's only in theory, and it takes more understanding to really understand this.
Is the understanding of seeing as it is? When there's no understanding of seeing as it is, what is there which has no understanding? Ignorance is there. Take it instantly for aswa I.
Yeah.
Pawasawa is there. That's why when we talk about the difference between aswa and upadana, at moment in the day, no matter when the attachment does not appear to something, even food, different dishes. But before that, is there no attachment? Before realizing, knowing that there is wanting something there, before that, there must be citta and cetasika experiencing an object and know what object is. But what about, is there attachment?
Subtle.
That's why when the attachment does not appear, even it's there, it is aswa. It seems like one doesn't have any attachment to anything at all. It's just there. Just there. See? But in truth, when there's no understanding of that, there must be wrong understanding, conditioned by ignorance and attachment to take it for I, because what is that? Experiences is there. So that is me, experiences I see, any moment. So when we talk about lopa by way of upadana or nivarana or whatever, it's different from moment when it doesn't show up when it's there. Even it's there, for sure, because we can walk to this place, we can touch that, we can eat, we can do many things, right, or whatever. No understanding of the attachment to the moment when attachment does not show up, that I want this thing, I like that, see, but it's there. That's why when there is no understanding of that which appears, there must be idea, asva of I, pavasava, and titasava, avichasava, or kamasava, because one is so used to take it for something as usual, flowers, bed, pattern, and picture, and so on, unknowingly. So just like nothing is there, but actually what is there is asva. So one learn to understand that the word that Buddha taught is there in daily life, everyday life. But no one knows until Buddha just taught about it, different degrees. Anusia does not arise, but is there as condition for whatever is there accumulated, ooze or seep out to cling to that object, depending on what person is there. Mutushana, Sotapanna, or Anagami, or what. But it's there unknown. So when there's no understanding of the truth of what is there, there must be akusala at different level, which does not appear that it's there. That is asva. So in order to eradicate defilement or akusala, there must be the understanding of that. At that moment when there's understanding, there's no condition for vasava or avijjasava or tiddasava, because understanding is there. They cannot arise together.
So it's very difficult when it doesn't show up, but still there. It's really developed panya only that can understand.
Until panya begin to understand it, and panya develops on and on with viriya and khanti, not neglect to have such panya to know that it's the best thing in life to understand that as it is. See, it's there, but why can't it be known as it is? How much ignorance and akusala to be there hinder the truth of it. And there cannot be anything which can eradicate it at all without understanding. Because ignorance is there, have more and more attachment, more and more asava, more and more kilesa, nivarana, and so on. That's why we can understand the word of the teaching, no matter what about anusaya, asava, nivarana, kilesa, upadana, all there in one life to be known as not self.
It's very helpful if you explain about asava in this way.
Pardon?
Very helpful that you explain asava.
And this is a way to understand what we take for I, how much ignorance. See, just study the word, remember it, don't know the number, but what about now? It's there unknown. But when there is the clinging or wanting something, lopa is there to be known. Even it's so very little, but it's more than just asava. Because it appears, it shows up. That's why
And at this
for those who would like to understand by question oneself, does asava experience an object?
But we don't know asava really. But
When
it's
there is seeing sees, and there is there as usual, it's there, like it's seen, but no understanding that there is attachment already, because there is no idea of I want this, I'm going to do that. See, in a day, asava is there, but few moments can be known as not asava. For example, when we are going to do something, there can be understanding of wanting something to do, to be done, to be taken. See, but when it's not that moment of wanting or liking to do anything, where is that? There is saying, and after that, what is there?
Very good. Yeah.
Attachment is there already. And avisha, not understanding it, is there until there can be there can be the understanding of the difference between moment of direct awareness. Is there at that moment no asava? Otherwise, there is asava. In a moment, we have to consider from moment, only one moment at a time. Because asava is akusala, it cannot arise with sati. So at moment of direct awareness, it's the beginning of developing understanding the nature of that which is seen. At that moment, there must be panya, which begins to develop to understand the truth of that which experiences without word. But the function, the moment when it experiences is there to be known little by little, naturally. It's different from a moment when there's no direct awareness at all. So why do we have to understand the difference between the nama and the rupa, that which can experience and that which cannot experience? Because they are there, but no awareness, no understanding to be aware of it at all. But from hearing again and again and again and again, Panya begins to understand little by little until it conditioned moment of direct awareness. But Panya in the very beginning is so very weak, but it's there different from moment when it's there without any attentional awareness at all. Just like moment of asava, see? Even attachment is there. It's so very subtle that it's not known as it is there already until it appears. I like this. I want to do it this. I stretch out my hand. That can be known as there must be attachment to condition such deed or action. So one begins to understand how much ignorance is there, unknown, when there's no understanding of the truth. And what about Sanya? See, it marks and remembers wrongly with the idea of self. So long, long time ago until now, as Diddhasava, before it can be eliminated little by little until it is absolutely eradicated, never to arise again in daily life, in samsara, in any moment. That's why only panya is there developing with right understanding. There cannot be any wish for this or that to arise, to be stronger to that degree or this degree. All depends on conditions. That is the understanding more about no I. Otherwise, who said, who wish and wants, I is there. That's why each word should be studied carefully that it's now and they are different. When there's understanding, it's different from moment when there's no understanding. Thinking about other things and just a glimpse or just a moment of thinking about that. See, different degrees of understanding is there, little by little. Otherwise, what can be conditioned to understand what is there in normal life, daily life, everyday life? They are conditioned realities. And it's not there at all as something, anatta, but wrong understand. Take it for something permanent as I have such and such thinking about this and that, how to solve this and that, see, go on and on with the idea of self. That's why it's not just to remember how many asava and how many upadana, but to understand what is it. Is it there now?
Yeah. Yeah, this is all very helpful, Ajahn. to be reminded like this about the asavas, because you often forget.
And at this moment, Nina, is the seeing I or my seeing, or is it just seeing at this moment? Because it comes back to this very moment when it seems that it's my seeing or I can see. What is this I that can see, or what is my that can do anything? Where is the self that can do anything, even follow rules? Because actually it's just a moment of seeing which arises by conditions and is gone. So thinking about I or thinking about others and then gone. So seeing arises by conditions and it just sees and it's gone. Kusala and akusala citas or sila, as we were talking about, just arise by conditions and have gone. No one that can do anything at all, no matter how the texts are framed or no matter whether it sounds like should or anything, just different realities by conditions. And on Alberto's point about the Eightfold Path, so even when there are when it's the mundane path and just 5 factors arising, it's still Adi Sila because Panya is there. So even when there are none of the Virati Chaitasikas, it's still Adi Sila at each moment when the path factors arise together. So whatever we read or hear about, it's about different realities that are conditioned, moments of seeing or hearing, which are vipaka, moments of kusala or akusala, different kinds of sila, but not my seeing or my. Sorry, I keep losing my connection. And Mark, you've been very patiently listening and there's been a lot of detail. Do you have any comments or questions or anything you would like to bring up?
I find it's very hard to understand, to listen. I find it hard to listen. But I'm very, I read some of the meeting of last Saturday about seeing now and about all the moments just coming and going away. And I understood a little of it. And I find that the little things I picked up during this meeting deepened that understanding a little. So I'm happy about that.
Is there anything particular you'd like to, you said you found it hard to follow some of the things that were being discussed. Any particular thing that you'd like
well,
to?
it's more my mind is restless. So it's hard to concentrate on what is said. So I picked up some bits. But anyway, they were helpful. And the only thing I have to comment on is that I'm happy and restless. So it's kusala and akusala.
The main point of all the discussions comes down to just the understanding of the truth about this moment. So whatever the topic, whatever the subject, it's just about different citas, chaitasikas and rupas, which are conditioned. No one that can do anything at all. No one that can see no one that can follow Sila, no one who can improve their life, no one who can condition what kind of rebirth the dog will have. But there can be understanding more and more that.
Yeah, for me, it's about the mind is very attached to the story. So it's
very
the
attached to the
understanding of the moments.
The whole story.
Yeah, the understanding of the moments is interfered by the attachment to the story. And it's...
That's a good way to put it. And the more understanding there is about the truth at this moment, the more understanding there will be that no matter the story or the situation, there are still just different realities arising and falling away by conditions at this moment only. So only ever one moment at a time. So we think what will happen if, and what should I do, and if my dog's like this and whatever, but what about the cheetah at this moment? What about the thinking right now? Is it thinking with worry or dosa or with attachment, or is there any understanding now that the thinking now, the seeing now is conditioned and gone instantly? What's happened's completely gone. And all the things one's so concerned about are just a story about the future, but life is just now.
Yes, and also there's the notion that there's an I who can understand this moment, and that's a story as well.
Right.
And that's
exactly.
That takes a mind shift to really understand that, I think.
And the point of studying all these different details, hearing about the aspas, hearing about different realities in different ways, is just in order to understand that the reality now is anatta, not self at all. No one that can do anything. That's the only reason the Buddha taught for so long and in such detail, to really help us all to consider and understand more that there are just different dhammas, no self to be found. So it's all about the gradual letting go of the idea of self as understanding develops.
And the mind shift has to happen gradually, moment by moment. It cannot be forced. It has to happen naturally. It has to happen by virtue of hearing and considering the Buddha's explanation of the way things are. And only in that way can there be a mind shift, because any other kind of mind shift is an artificial change, because it doesn't do anything to eradicate or to change the accumulated way of thinking and the misunderstandings that are dearly held to. So it's only by hearing the truth about the way things are and reflecting on it over time that there can be a real shift of the way of seeing the world.
Yes, I appreciate that.
And what you said about, oh, sometimes it's difficult to follow or concentration or to listen. It's like that for everyone, different cheetahs, different moments, and it's all Dhamma, it's all very natural. It's just the way it is by conditions, and any minding about it is just more attachment, and it's all gone. It's all completely gone. Back to this moment again.
Yeah.
Anyway, glad to see you here, Mark.
Yeah. Like Ashan says, it doesn't matter. It's very good.
Yes, I'm not too worried about it.
I mean, and as you would say that it's just a story. The mind is shifting, it's just a story.
I think it's just about time. Anything else you'd like to add, Ajahn, or would you like to finish?
ค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ
ครับสวัสดีครับอาจารย์
ขอบคุณมากครับ
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์ สวัสดีค่ะ everyone.